Okay, so I forgot to hit the record button the first time. We're about 8 hours before chili time, dinner time. We're going to get this thing all cleaned up because we used it about 2 days ago. And there's my little Molly. We're not going to be grilling her today. But in the future, we are going to be grilling those guys over there. So we're going to get this cleaned up, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're on the next part here. Now, there are several ways you could do this on this particular grill. I have an older Weber. I prefer to use the older Weber. Now, when you're slow cooking, there's a few different methods you could use. Depending on, me personally, it's depending on what type of meat piece that you're using. We're doing 2 chuck roasts today. They're rather large, so they're not going to use the other methods. But one method is you take your briquettes, you stick them over to the side, place your meat here. Now, when you're placing your briquettes in the Weber, it's very important. Look at that stupid dog licking the grate. Yeah, clean her all off. That'll burn off. Don't worry about that. It's very important to check the wind direction when you're doing this, okay? Our wind direction is southwest. So we're going to put the charcoal briquettes on the opposite side. So when you put the lid on, the 4 holes are going to be here. Charcoal is going to be here, and the wind is going to draw that smoke going that way. Okay, so basically it's going to be fire, meat. It's going to go through the meat, out the 4 holes, and the smoke's going to go that way because of our wind direction. If it was another way, you would just either turn your grill or put the charcoals on the other side. The second way we could have done this with a different piece of meat, if you're doing sirloin, tip roast, round roast, rump roast, anything like that, smaller roast, what you do is you take the briquettes and you put them, line them up, 3 all the way around. You go all the way around the circle. You do 3 briquettes, 3 or 4, depending on how long your cook time is. 3 or 4, and you put your rump roast in the center. You can do it that way too. I use different cuts of meats for that one. That'll be another segment at another time. But today we're doing 2 chuck roasts. They're going to go right here, 1, 2, and they are actually frozen. So we got plenty of cook time. So we're going to get started on that, and we're going to get this thing fired up, burn off the dog licking on that, and get these chuck roasts on there. I'll be right back. Okay, we're about I don't know, 6 hours in. Here's our chuck roast. Here's our coals. I just reloaded the coals through the little hole here. Just reloaded. And there's little Molly waiting to give it a taste test. What we're looking for is when we're cooking this, is see these bones right here? We're waiting for these bones to pop out. Once they pop out, we're done. This chuck roast got a bunch of bones in it. That's the way this butcher cut it. We got bones here. We got bones here. These are the pieces of meat that we're going to be using in our chili. Right here. Right here. Take the fat. We're going to discard that. Or actually give it to the chickens or whatever. But we're just waiting for these bones, specifically this one and this one right here. We're waiting for that to pop out. So we're going to put our lid back on because we don't want to lose any more heat. Because as cold as it is, it's having a hard time, you know, it's got to work a little bit harder. So we're going to make sure that lid's on there. Remember, holes above the meat, wind going that way, coals here, goes up and out and that way. Remember. Okay, it's been about 6.5 hours. Sun went down right over the top of that car over there a little while ago. And the cows are, I don't know what they're doing. I think they're loafing around. So we're going to take these things off and let them rest a little bit so we can decipher them or dismantle them, whatever you want to go. This is what they look like. Coals are right there. These guys they just look like 2 big old steaks, but as you can see, that bone right there is about ready to pop out, and that's exactly what we want. That means that meat is juicy. Look at that juice. There's juice right there. Perfect. You can't get any better than that. You want that fat to be burned around the edges. That's good. That's fine. So we're going to take these guys off and meet you inside. Okay, back in the kitchen. This is some meat I set aside here. You see this pink right here? Right there? That is the smoke that cooked the meat, actually. And that's a smoke ring. That's what you're looking for when you're grilling. You ain't got that, you ain't got no flavor. As you noted, I put no salt, no pepper, nothing on that meat. It's just a true flavor of the meat. So I'm setting this particular portion on the side. I'm setting this aside for like a sandwich. I'll put it in a bowl because I cut it in strips. I had a little bit too much. This right here is some burnt ends that I found on that. I just wanted to show you. This is the flavor. This is why we're using grilled steak or grilled chuck roast in our chili, because of this piece right here. This right here is probably enough to flavor the whole darn thing, believe it or not. This is our meat that I minced up. You can use it for barbecue beef, whatever you want. So I got that in a bowl there. This is our chicken bucket. The chickens will have that devoured, and every single ounce of meat, completely all of that bucket. Other ingredients, we got 2 jalapeno peppers, actually about 2.5. These are from our garden. There's some onions from our garden. We got about, I don't know, it's probably an onion right there. Take the bad ones right there. They're not bad, they're just waterlogged and they get discolored. There's nothing wrong with them. This is some green peppers from my garden. Over here we have olive oil, some garlic. You can use fresh garlic. This is a lot easier. Just buy a little container of garlic. It costs, what, $1.25. We got some cherry tomatoes. And in this container we got about 2 tablespoons of sugar. Over here, these are the only tomatoes and the only tomato products that I use, period, are these right here. I got 2 cans of diced tomatoes, 1 can of tomato paste. These, I got the labels turned around on purpose. These are chili beans. I got 3 cans of those. And these 1 can of black beans. I got those labels turned around because that outfit will probably throw a fit. This is my cooking pot. I only cook in this pot right here as far as chili goes. I have 3 of these pots. Each one I use for something different. 1 for baking, 1 for frying outside, and 1 for indoor chili and stuffing and stuff like that. This is what we're going to be using for chili. Seasonings: kosher salt, pepper, parsley flakes. Pretty important piece, we got smoked paprika, got some oregano leaves, crushed red pepper, a little cilantro I found in the cabinet, we'll just throw that in, and a little bit of rosemary. The only thing I do not have is basil. Would be the best thing you could probably put in here, but I don't have that, but it's not a big deal because we're looking for that smoked flavor. So I'm going to get these things all added together and we're going to start cooking. Okay, we're back on the stove. Now in here we had 3 tablespoons of butter on the bottom of that pan. We're going to start with 1 heaping teaspoon of garlic. Throw that in there. Let's get our spoon. Stir that around a little bit. Get that going. Get that smelling good. And we take an onion. Got an onion all chopped up. Throw that in there. Alright. Stir that up. Get that going. Okay. That's going to soften up, of course, because I don't thaw them out. I go straight from the freezer to the cutting board to the pan. I don't thaw out anything I freeze from the garden. Green pepper. Get that bad boy in there. Okay. Now the reason why we had 3 tablespoons of butter in here is because we're not using hamburger. This meat doesn't have any fat on it because I cut it all off. It's flat out smoked meat. That's it. So you use butter because we're doing a cast iron pan. We use butter to coat the inside of that pan, plus for a little bit of flavor. But it's mainly for cast iron, and we're not using hamburger. If you're using hamburger, I would not use the butter. I would just use a little bit of olive oil to grease the bottom of that. But I only cook in cast iron, so that's the way I do it. You can take this meat, pour that meat in there. Got that going on in there. Give that a little stir. Okay, get that guy a little stir in there. Meat, because chuck roast takes a long time to cut up. Because what a chuck roast is, it's fat, layer of meat, layer fat, layer bone, layer fat, layer meat. But it's one of the best tasting pieces of meat on a cow, but it's probably one of the lowest prices thing of meat in the store because it's such a pain in the butt to cut up. I'm willing to do that because I know how good it tastes and I know how to cook it just right. And it's a cheap piece of meat. You want a cheap meal, you get one of those. That's a cheap meal. That's high-end tasting. So we got all our immediate ingredients in here. We're going to let this kind of cook around. Because what happened was this meat just soaked up. I'm going to try to show you here. That meat just soaked up everything I had in the bottom of that pan. There's nothing down there. It soaked every bit of that up. Okay, so we got smoke flavor with onion flavor, with garlic flavor, with butter flavor, soaked right into that dry meat. I do that on purpose because that's going to be a better tasting piece of meat. So we're going to let that stir a little bit. Got it on, I don't know, about 3 on electric stove. And we're going to just let that go. We're going to get all our cans opened up and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. It's been about 20 minutes because I had to use the can opener. I opened everything, all the cans, everything. Got everything lined up here. Got my jalapeno. Got my cherry tomatoes just cut in half. 2 cans of red gold. The only reason why I use red gold, made in America. That's the only tomatoes I use. Got tomato paste. We got 3 cans of undrained chili beans, 1 can of drained black beans, and very last is our sugar. That's only going to be to taste. That's going to be absolutely last. We're going to give it about a half-hour cook time before we even add that. So that's absolutely last. We're going to go ahead and add our ingredients. You know, just basically it's a shake of everything. Shake of the ingredients that I showed you before. You don't have to go killer on it. Especially the smoked paprika that I had in there. Easy on that. Less than a teaspoon on that. Because that's pretty strong stuff. We got our meat. Look at that smoke rings on that meat. Now take note, I have added no salt, pepper, no chili bags, powders, none of that crap. Anything yet. Everything here is natural so far. I will add salt and pepper, but that'll be later on. If I even need to do that. Because all the flavor is right there in that smoke ring. Okay, I'm going to get these added up because I can't hold the phone and do that at the same time. I'll be right back. Okay, got everything poured in the pot. Gave it a stir. That's the consistency we got at the start. Okay, we got all of our ingredients in there. Black beans, chili beans. You could even use pinto beans, it don't matter. Okay, we're going to start adding our stuff. Like I said, only a shake. You just give it a little shake, and you're good. Alright, here's what we got. I have created or made a tent. This is called a tent. That's what they call it out west. In the old cowboy days, they call it a tent. I poked little holes in here because if I use the cast iron lid, all it's going to do is drip moisture in there. We ain't making vegetable soup here. We're making chili. Now you can see I got on number 3. Take that off. Now what it's doing is we got a little bit not too high, but what we're doing is we're mixing, getting rid of the acid of the tomatoes, and we threw our sugar in there to replace the acid of the tomatoes. That's all that sugar's for, is to counterbalance the acid in the tomatoes. So we're going to cut that back to low. Or being cast iron pie, we could even turn it off. And that's going to be our chili right there. Now, if you were in this house, this house smells like the best smokehouse you have ever been in your life because of that smoked meat. We're going to mix that up right there. We're going to mix that up. Look at that. Now that right there. All natural. You didn't see me pull out a packet out of that cabinet drawer, did you? Because that packet's got nothing but garbage in it. It's got MSGs, nothing but harmful synthetic stuff in those packets. You don't want to use those packets. Those packets is garbage. You can actually read on the package of the packet and get some stuff up in the cabinet and you can make your own. It's not hard. 90% paprika is what that is. Alright, but that's our chili. We're going to let this cook for about 10 more minutes with no tent on it. Because as you can see the tent. See that moisture? It's half of the moisture that you would get if you were to put a lid on it. So if you want something somewhat moist, but not drowned in a bunch of fluid, you'd put a tent on it, poke a few holes in it, and that'll cure your problem right there. Now, we're going to let this go about 10 more minutes, uncovered, and then we're going to give it a taste. Okay. I already know what it tastes like, but it's going to taste good. We're going to give that a taste. Now, this chili's not even good yet. Technically, if you want the best chili you ever ate in your life, you would take this chili, put it in a bowl, put it in the refrigerator, and you would let that chili sit all night. No touching it. And then you're going to bust that thing out tomorrow, and you're going to put it in a bowl, and then you're going to eat it, and it's going to be the best chili around. Because the rest of the acid in these tomatoes is going to marry with everything else. But I'm not going to wait that long because I'm going to eat it right now. This big old pan, it's probably not going to be anything left of that. This pan is huge. This is a 12-inch cast iron pot. There's probably not going to be no left of that chili once Aaron gets home. So this is the end of my video. I'm going to let this cook for 10 more minutes, bowl this up, and I'm going to put a little bit of Fritos on the bottom of the bowl, and I'm going to pour this chili on it, and I'm going to enjoy my chili. You guys have a good night, and that's how we make chili.